Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Cinema Condition, a podcast devoted to analyzing film and what makes a movie a movie. I am your host, Raul Alejandro Mendoza, a filmmaker, podcaster, and lover of cinema in general. Today, I am joined by Alejandro Flores, or Alex Flores, as you guys know him on here. They are a film producer and a lover of cinema themselves as well. And today, they have selected Joe and Ethan Coen's The Big Lebowski. Hey, Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm here to talk about one of probably my picks for one of the best movies of all time. You go to my letterbox, it still managed to be on there under my favorite films. It's,
Yes,
it's going to be a fun
sir.
conversation.
Yes, sir. Um, this isn't the first time that Alex has been here. This is first time for season two. Yes, but not the podcast in general. Alex was on last season for Akira and Logan, which two great episodes. I had a lot of fun making, and I'm glad that we brought him back. And if you guys don't know Alex, you want to introduce yourself again, Alex, for people who might be listening to this podcast for the first time.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alex Flores, Alejandro, whatever you want to call me. I'm a producer, dabbling in writing, former podcast host. I used to host the Weeb Core here on the Nerdcore Network. Um, Frequent guest of this podcast. Yeah, twice. But you can also find me on the Nerdcore. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. Last seen in podcast world was in the what's it called the Tu Mamá También review. Yeah,
that was a great one.
that was great. It was a great episode. It was a great episode. Alex is a great friend of mine. He's also the person that I am going to be chained to together to for a while now as we produce pretty much what we are making and we write together. And I chose Alex for the long haul. This is pretty much the closest thing I will get to marriage soon. In the
Son of
meantime,
no
yeah.
problem. Bit.
Yeah, Alex produced my short film before I leave, and he edited it as well, which was also his final editing credit. He said, "I am retiring from editing, and I am
Well,
going to
I mean,
concentrate."
now that I've relaxed a little bit, the whole cycle's done. I may go back. I may go back. We'll see.
You're like, well, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, he told me he likes producing a lot more, and
Yeah,
you know,
producing was fun. Editing is great. It's just, well, we'll see how it goes second time around.
yeah. It was quite the stressful experience to edit that film. So I understand why you would be like, I am contemplating retirement now before my career even
Contemplating.
starts.
I'm one credit in, and I'm like, you know what, man? I don't think this is fucking hacking up.
Yeah, yeah. Though I will say, what's it called? Re- uh, Editing Beyond the River or editing Before I Leave. You take
Oh,
your poison.
fucking before I leave was my fucking Kane.
Yeah. Oh man, but it is really nice to see you all again and be in the presence of you all. This podcast has not been active since we had John on here to talk about Apocalypse Now from Francis Ford Coppola, and that was because I didn't take a hiatus. I basically what's it called? My life got a little bit hectic, much more hectic than I expected it to get. But I also decided to put every single episode of the Cinema Condition on my personal YouTube channel, which is where you are watching this episode right now. On my personal YouTube channel, we are very much still affiliated with the Nerdcore, but this podcast is not going to live on the Nerdcore podcast YouTube on the Nerdcore YouTube channel anymore. It's going to live on my what's it called on my YouTube channel here. It's still the same thing as always, y'all. Every Monday at 8 a.m. or what's it called? I'm sorry. Every Monday at 12 p.m. You'll be getting this podcast directly into your faces on YouTube or in your ear holes on
Mike's
anchor.fm/ the cinema condition. And of course, still the same thing we're doing here. It's just a different home. And I'm glad because what's it called? You guys have been enjoying these videos. Actually, what's it called? You guys have been watching the video versions. There's also the many of you who think that I'm actually showing the film, which I don't know at this point how y'all think that that's the case. I
Oh, so we're not bootleggers?
No, I mean it's just you would be surprised, Alex, how many people actually think I'm supposedly going to show the film. Um, but we're here to discuss the film. We're here to analyze. We're here to have a kind of a conversation, not a review, as you all know. But yeah, there's a lot of y'all out there who somehow believe that I'm going to be showing the film to you all, and you get
Showing it
mad.
mirrored, showing it mirrored with some weird subtitles.
Yeah, yeah. I can't do that, man. I'm really sorry. As much as I would love to, that would cause my channel to just get axed in general. But before we get into any of it, Alex, how what's it called? What have you been up to, man, since we last saw you? What have you been watching? Anything that's been catching your eye? I know that you and I are pretty much have the same film at our number one right now, and I could 100% agree with you that I don't think I'm watching anything lately that has topped Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, no. So I've been trying to head out to the theater as much as I can just to watch movies just as often as I can. So,
Hmm.
everything everywhere all at once, my top film of the year so far. That was one of the most
Hmm.
beautiful pieces of cinema I've seen. I just recently saw, a while back, saw The Northman, seen, the new Doctor Strange, stuff like that, trying to catch up on my personal collection. HBO Max, yesterday I just sat through both parts of the uh, George Carlin documentary that they just did
Ooh, yeah.
with the Judd Apatow. That was a great documentary. 3 hours of my life well spent. But other than that, just us working on our projects. Me helping collab with you, kind
Hmm.
of trying to get my feet wet with my own writing, trying to balance that out with my own, professional life. So yeah, it's been going pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Glad to hear, man. I ask you for the audience sake, not like you and I don't talk every single day, right? That's like
Oh
that's
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
we don't leave each other alone.
yeah. We don't leave each other alone. But yeah, I'm just happy to have you here again, man. It's just always a pleasure, and of course, you're one of my best friends. So every single time you're on the Cinema Condition, it's always going to be a fun time. And of course, this is not your last episode because you have so many other episodes down the line. But of course, let's go ahead and get into this, my friends. Because we have never covered a film from Joel and Ethan Coen here, I do have to introduce you all to the filmmakers known as the Coen Brothers. And of course, let me go ahead and take a moment here because I do my research for this podcast. If you guys
Which,
don't know, I do.
before you do your intro, like, how have we not talked about the Coen Brothers? Like,
Yeah.
even just like anybody else on the show, it's the Coen Brothers.
Yeah, I tell you, man, I what's it called? I give everybody the list. I'm like, hey guys, this is what everybody has chosen. Go ahead and pick a movie. And somehow nobody else wanted to do the Coen Brothers. And I think actually Brad is mad that you chose this pick because he loves Big Lebowski. But then
Yeah.
again, that's a rivalry on this podcast between you and Brad for some reason.
Every episode of the Weep Core always signed off. Fuck Brett.
Fuck Brad. Yeah, yeah, and I love it. I love it. But let's go ahead and talk about Joel and Ethan Coen, y'all. Joel Daniel Coen, born 1929, 1954, and Ethan Jesse Coen, born September 21st, 1957, were born and raised in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, a suburb of Minneapolis. The brothers' interest in cinema came from watching Italian films like the works of Federico Fellini at a young age. Joel mowed lawns, and with the money he saved from it, he bought his first Super 8 camera. They spent their time remaking films that they watched on television. They went to Bard College at Simon's Rock in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. After Bard College, Joel went to an undergraduate film program at New York University, NYU. Joe would attend a film graduate program at the University of Texas at Austin, but left after 9 months. On the other hand, Ethan attended Princeton University and earned an undergraduate degree in philosophy. Joel started off as an assistant director and then grew a love for film editing as he grew a love for film editing as he assisted Edna Ruth Paul, the editor of The Evil Dead, which is when Joel met Sam Raimi. The brothers wrote and directed their debut, Blood Simple, in 1984. The film would start the many collaborations with Frances McDormand, which would end up becoming Joel Coen's wife later on. Their next film is Raising Arizona, which is the first collaboration with John Goodman, which is another one of his frequent collaborators. In 1990, they released Miller's Crossing, and in 1991, they win the Palme d'Or for their film Barton Fink, which actually we just covered on the Nerdcore podcast. So if you want to go and check that out, y'all, we actually really, really like Barton Fink. In 1996, they released one of their most famous works, Fargo. The film wins them many awards, including 2 Academy Awards. They released more films from 1998 to 2004 that includes works like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, Intolerable Cruelty, and The Lady Killers. In 2007, they released No Country for Old Men, which won 4 Academy Awards, including the prestigious Best Picture. Their filmography would include films such as Burn After Reading, True Grit, Inside Llewyn Davis, and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. In 2021, Joel Coen directed The Tragedy of Macbeth, signaling the first time that the brothers would not work together after many years. Ethan Coen is also directing a film for Focus Features at the moment. So, that is the filmmakers known as Joel and Ethan Coen, my friends. I am a big fan of the films from the Coen Brothers. I love Fargo. I adore No Country for Old Men, which is a film that I'm actually studying extensively for a script that Alex and I are writing. And yeah, what are your thoughts on the Coen Brothers, Alex? How special are they to your journey with film?
I think the Coen brothers are extremely special because they're the way that I can easily say is that they're not one trick ponies. I
Mm-hmm.
think aside from the Big Lebowski, one of my first introductions to the Coen brothers was actually True Grit. So True Grit's a great remake. Like I actually cannot go back and rewatch the original with and I'm pretty sure somebody's out there's gonna shoot me for that. But True Grit, the remake for True Grit that the Coen brothers did is excellent. The Big Lebowski, no, No Country for Old Men is just like one of the most beautiful pieces of film in terms of just that kind of serious, kind of raw tone, very anxiety. Like my anxiety, like shot up to 100 watching that film.
Yeah.
I think
No,
Javier Bardem has never been scarier.
100%. And just also seeing Bardem in like other roles where he like really tugs at your heartstrings, and knowing No Country for Old Men is like he's just the perfect villain as well. It's like what the fuck?
And I think
Like,
he's one of the best villains in that one. I really loved how well they directed him in that one because there's almost a sense of like pleasure that he seeks out of doing this, out of doing everything that he does.
mhm,
And that's why I absolutely adore the Coens because they tackle everything from uber serious to heart wrenching, like with some of the shorts in the Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
mhm.
There's some really great repertoire that they have. I still
Yeah,
haven't seen the Tragedy of Macbeth. I still need to sit down and watch that one.
me too. I need to watch that. Um, One of my favorites is Hail Caesar. I love Hail Caesar. I think Hail Caesar's so funny because I mean it's true. Like Joe and Ethan have this like they love noir. They love
Yeah.
noir.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
love noir. They love westerns, but they also like to be a little different, and like they like to make their little comedies, or they also like to make their really heart wrench films. And but you can tell that there's stuff that they love a lot. That it's the stuff they obviously grew up watching, and they wanted
Yeah.
to make. But there's also things that you watch in their repertoire where it's like, oh, this is stuff that really interests them, but they like to play around with it, and it's not anything that's like inherently tied to a genre. Like I mean, like just watching Barton Fink, I don't think I could even like call that a noir, even though it has very noir feel to it. But Barton Fink is really a psychological thriller and a psychological drama. It's like it's nuts. I think Joel and Ethan are probably one of the most versatile filmmakers to ever grace our presence on the silver screen, dude. They're wonderful directors.
I agree. And like every time that I just hear that they have a new project coming out, like I mean, holy shit! Like Joel just doing the Tragedy of Macbeth. Like what the fuck? That's completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Like okay, like, they're doing their noir, their westerns, especially especially with Ballad of Buster Scruggs being their last one. Like okay, and then fucking out of left field with the Tragedy of Macbeth. I was like, what the fuck was this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not that I'm like against it, but I was like, holy shit, I did not expect this. But then again, that's again just showing you don't know what to expect with them.
Mhm.
Well, especially just Joel because he did that one by himself.
Yeah. I mean, also we just didn't expect for them to part ways now and like start
Yeah,
working alone. And I'm like, to the point where like Ethan's not even producing, didn't even produce Macbeth. You know,
yeah.
it's just Joel, and like I think it's the same thing with Ethan. Like Ethan, what's it called? I don't think Joel's even gonna work on that film with Ethan. It's like, huh, it's interesting. But you know, who knows what's it called? I'm not Joel and Ethan, so I don't know what's going on. But you know, I'm very happy that you chose this film, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce the film, the Big Lebowski from the year 1998, and let's go ahead and talk a little bit here about the film. The film is about a Los Angeles slacker and an avid bowler called the Dude. He gets assaulted because of a mistaken identity tied to a millionaire named Jeffrey Lebowski. After his wife gets kidnapped, the dude is hired to deliver the ransom to release Jeffrey's wife. But things get a little crazy when other parties get involved. The film's main character of the dude is mostly based on Jeff Dowd, a producer that the Coens know. The film is loosely inspired by Raymond Chandler and pretty much the works of Raymond Chandler and the way that he structures his work. A couple of actors passed on the role of Jeffrey, including Robert Duvall, Anthony Hopkins, Gene Hackman, Gore Vidal, and more. I was mostly really surprised at Gore Vidal. Um, Gore Vidal would have been crazy as Jeffrey, but we'll talk about that a little more. The Coens started writing the film around the time that they were writing Barton Fink, but after Goodman and Bridges were busy with other projects, the directors decided to work on Fargo instead. Um, Alex, I'm pretty sure you know what project that Goodman was working on, right?
It's more than likely gonna hit me, and I'm just like messed up on my timelines right now.
He was too busy working on Roseanne.
Come on, buddy.
I mean, he's really good at Roseanne, but like in the long term of things, I would have been like, yeah, I got to go work with Joel and Ethan. I'm sorry, guys. Can we cut it a little bit? But I understand. You know, he had to work on that. It was a big thing for him. But yes, Goodman was too busy working on
I would
Roseanne.
rather him have. I rather would have him just taken his time working on the Flintstones. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, now looking at where Roseanne is now, we definitely, yeah, yeah.
You know
That's
whose career's prospering right now?
that's a prospering career, right? But you know, John Goodman's still the national treasure, John Goodman. But
Fucking beautiful man.
yeah. Um, so Alex, before we get into like the actual conversation on this film, why did you choose this film, bro? Why was this your first pick for season two?
So for the Big Lebowski, it's one of those films that I can literally say on first watch, you're definitely not gonna get it. It's one of those films that you're just sit down and watch, and you're gonna just kind of really process it, sit there and think about it, and you're like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And then you kind of get in a few more times, and you really see the beauty of it, just how simple it is. Because like even doing a plot description like you just did there, kind of does its own justice.
No,
The
it's a lot
film
more to it.
because a lot of the times people were like, "Well, what's the film about?" And I'm gonna be, and I just usually look at them and I'm like, "I'm not gonna tell you. Just watch it. Just hear me
Promise you,
out. Just watch it."
just watch it.
And it's one of those films that like I don't get tired of, and it's hard for me to just be like, I'll sit a film. I mean, there's films that I'll rewatch and I'll like chill out and watch, but The Big Lebowski hits me every single time that I watch. It's the same things that I just love and pop for. It's learning new little things that you didn't pay attention to the first time around. There's just so much. If anything, it's probably beautifully simple,
Hmm.
but at the same time, outrageous as hell. Like how does half of this shit happen? Like the dude literally just went to the grocery store at the beginning of the film, comes back and has two dudes acting as loan sharks asking for the money.
Yep,
And
exactly.
just to set the tone, they ambush him and they're fucking like dunking his head in the toilet and like, "Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money, shithead? Just put my head. I think I saw it down there. I need to take one more look." sets the tone for the whole film
Yeah.
in a whole.
It's obviously one of the most memorable films of all time. One of the most quotable films as well. I mean, I really do rank when it comes to that like quotable. I rank it up there with The Godfather, which I literally just watched again. I'm like, this movie is incredibly quotable. I mean, there are lines that you remember like that. And yeah, like I say, usually on this podcast, I'm like, it doesn't matter whether I like the film or not. I'm still gonna talk about it because there's a lot to be discussed. And on this one, I can tell you all so much that this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I never get sick of watching this movie. Um, I think it's a complete disservice for you just to YouTube clips. I think just
Oh yeah,
rewatching
no,
this film just gives you a great experience. And
I I forget whether it was Jeff Bridges or no, I'm pretty sure it was Jeff Bridges who says that he can't rewatch the movie because the moment that he puts it on, he can't get up from it.
yeah, I just can't get up. I was like,
He
yeah,
he he puts it on and he'll be like, "Yeah, no, there's movies that I can put on. I'll watch about 20 minutes of it and then I'll
yeah,
leave." He says
yeah.
he can't put the Big Lebowski on because no matter what, he has to sit and watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Um, Also, now that I rewatched this film, I remember that they actually reused this one of the sets here, the bowling alley,
Uh-huh.
for the film Crazy Heart. In Crazy
Oh, that's
Heart, one of the bowling alleys that he performs at, Jeff Bridges, is actually the one from the Big Lebowski.
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, I noticed because like when we get the reversal of Sam Elliott, I'm like, that's
Uh-huh.
the exact same background from the Big Lebowski. From the what's it
Oh,
called? That's the same exact one in Crazy Heart. Which, by the way, y'all, if you have not watched Crazy Heart, Jeff Bridges is great in that film, and I 100% understand why he won the Oscar for that one. That one's
that
he's
that
so
that
good in
that
that movie.
that movie's so fucking good, like so
Yeah,
beautifully heartbreaking. Oh my god,
I love that. I don't even like country music like that, and like I love that movie. But yeah, man, thanks for choosing this one, bro. This is a great film, and without further ado, let's start our conversation on Joel and Ethan Coen's The Big Lebowski. So, Alex, The Big Lebowski is, you know, from the outside, a lot of people would think this isn't your like really like this isn't a film with a lot of depth to it, and I that's where I wholeheartedly disagree,
yeah,
because there's so much going on here that I think is perfect for the time that this was made. Because this is shot in 1997. And the late 90s was a period filled with so much stuff going on. Like, the invasion of, what's it called, the Persian Gulf War. Later on, we would have Desert Storm in the coming years. And, you know, I mean, Walter is constantly revolving around this idea of like an invasion, and
yeah.
like, you know, it's very much a product of the time that this film is being made. And that's why I kind of wanted to just at first, when we start talking about this film, I really do want to talk about the whole aspect of the Persian Gulf War here. So, because um, when they're watching TV, like you see George H.W. Bush talking about the invasion of Kuwait from by Iraq, and us having grown up, especially in the early 2000s, we know exactly what happens after all this, and we know that what's it called? His son ends up invading Iraq, and we end up being involved in a what's called multi-year conflict here. Um, what stands out to you when we like look at the whole aspect of the late '90s, especially the Gulf War in this film, bro?
It kind of just, if anything, it just kind of rings. Uh, for one thing, like I can't even say that that idea of Walter is an outdated one
No,
because
no,
it's very much just still something that is very much present in the modern day, and I think that's something that makes it timeless because whether it is that whole thing going on, as we saw in the 2000s, because everything obviously from there, everything that we see with the Persian Gulf War, Desert Storm, obviously escalates and connects to where we were in the modern day, and just the idea, it just kind of feels so timeless in a sense that we still kind of have that mentality of people. And as much that I laugh at the idea of Walter, I probably also laugh at the caricature that he follows because there are people like that. That constant idea of just this, we're constantly being evaded, we're constantly being at odds with these different countries and all these different. it's mind-boggling just how even being a product of the 90s, it's not a product of the 90s because it's still much very much relevant. I could probably just you know, go ahead and swap out George H.W. Bush for Trump footage and it probably still would ring true as much today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or I mean, hell, you could even like set this during the invasion of Syria and what's it called, Lebanon, not Lebanon. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Libya, and put footage of Iraq, and but I mean, it's like it's such an interesting aspect because you kind of like juxtapose between Walter and the dude.
Yeah.
From what I remember correctly, Walter did not serve.
No.
No. So you have Walter, who's never served a day in his life, and you have the dude who is a Vietnam War vet who fought, what's it called, served in Vietnam. Hell, even like Jeffrey, Jeffrey served in the Korean War.
Yes.
Yeah, and all these three people are so different in their what's it called, like response to this whole idea of like the Gulf War. And Walter is the most outspoken one, and yet it speaks more volumes when you look at like the dude and how he reacts to what Walter says about all these things, and he's like, kind of the dude feels like, dude, you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, man.
No.
Like
Yeah.
this, like
No.
I've served, and you don't like, yeah, we're not supposed to be involved here, but like it's easier said than done. Like you have no idea what actually happens when you're out there, and like you can be out here like this is our liberties, and these are things that are being trampled on, and it's like you have no idea what I've seen.
Yeah. No. Because obviously he would represent that kind of that young generation that was sent off to Vietnam, and when you think about
Mm-hmm.
it, like 18, practically kids. I know, like everyone's like, oh, 18 they're fucking kids.
You're
Try to think
straight out
back
of
to when
high school, bro.
you're straight out of high school. Like think back to when you're 18. You're a fucking kid. I literally to my in my own fucking adult brain, I'm gonna be 26. I probably didn't feel more like an adult
Mm-hmm.
until I was already out of my first degree. That's when like fucking reality finally sits in.
Mm-hmm.
So the dude kind of carries that sentiment to where he knows that kind of idea of like, look, I know war. Like I know what the government really does when they fucking throw people out there.
Mm-hmm.
You're fucking playing. You're the chess piece in the government's game.
Yeah, and yet Walter is just like this guy who just is like so outspoken. And then you look at Jeffrey, who kind of like, because Jeffrey and the dude are two very different types of veterans.
Yeah.
Because both of them share the same experience, that both of these people did not end up getting any help afterwards. There was no help. They came back to their home country, and that's it. There was nothing else given to them. There was no help provided to, get them back on their feet after, losing so many years of their lives to conflict that, just like Walter believes, they should never have been involved in it. And yeah, and to an extent, we all do 100% believe that we should not have been involved in Vietnam. We should not have been involved in Korea, and to in 100% to the utmost extent, we should not have been involved in Iraq. But sadly, these things happened, and we are there. And Jeffrey is the person who's like, well, you got to put yourself back up on your bootstraps. You have to make a name for yourself, and you have to get a job, and you still contribute to society. Meanwhile, the dude is this other different person who, during this time, he's kind of like, well, I came back, ignored, was not given any help, so why the fuck should I contribute to this country who does not care one single bit about me? They were able to care about me while they shipped me off to war when I was a young guy, but after that, they pretty much said, you're on your own, bud.
Yeah. No. And that's kind of just like honestly, like it's this is even coming from my personal life. I know a lot of people like that. You know, my grandfather. Sharing a little bit of personalness. My grandfather, he lived with us for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a couple years, and then entire time we're trying to help him get benefits. He did his time. He served. He was 28 years in the Air Force. He did his time, served his country, did everything that he could. And when he needed the help the most, it was kind of the whole run around, like, oh well, let's see what we can do for him. Took years upon years upon years. A lot of, well, he didn't get a lot of what he was suffering from, like dementia. He was suffering from dementia. It wasn't like caused by the war. So things of that nature. You kind of sympathize with the dude, because obviously Jeffrey's from that. The Jeffrey Lebowski kind of like has that mentality of like the older generation, to where they had like this honor, like I served and I defended my country and da 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 da. Where the dude was like, dude, I was a fucking kid shipped off. I was a
Mm-hmm.
fucking kid shipped off, fought in a fucking war we shouldn't have been in, a fucking war we didn't even win. And I come home and the government hardly gives a shit. And then especially, society is like, oh, you're a fucking child killer. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a losing battle. So you kind of sympathize with the dude as to like, you know what, fuck this. I don't fucking care.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% understand why you're a slacker, bro. I understand. And it's like, you know, you're pretty much just like, I am only worrying about staying alive here, what's it called, enjoying what's left of my time, because a lot of my time was already stripped away. And I, like, fuck it. If I'm going to spend these last days, what's it called, these last years of my life that I have left playing bowling, smoking a joint, and hanging out with my friends, well, fuck it.
I mean, fuck it. I do the same.
Drinking White Russians. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Hanging out at some credence.
yeah, that's the Greens and hating on the Eagles.
Dude, I fucking quote that all fucking day. Every time a fucking
Yeah,
Eagles song comes out on the radio, I was like, man,
yeah.
can you change the channel? I hate the fucking Eagles,
Eagles.
man.
I've had a really long day, man. Can you
I've had
please just change the channel? I fucking hate the Eagles, man.
I that is one of my that's that one quote I just toss out anytime I can.
Yeah. I love that quote. I think it's one of the most quotable parts. It's also one of the parts that just takes you out of nowhere. But yeah, and and that's kind of like, of course now we even see it, like there's a whole church devoted to the dude, like the Church of the Later Day Dude. There are people who just have gone into this philosophy of the dude, and I mean I understand, man. I really do, honestly. Yeah, like if we look at those three characters, the one that you want to like root for the most, that you truly root for the most, is fucking the dude. Like the dude is 100% the one, not the guy who like pretty much ran his woman out like because of what's it called, just absolutely being sick of her and just not wanting her around anymore. Was he runs out his wife, and then the other one is still hung up on his ex-wife and won't let go, and just what's it called, thinks that he is the end all be all of everything, and has like the what's called the most pervasive knowledge of life when he really hasn't experienced as much as he believes he has.
If my wife told me to her dog while she and her new boyfriend ran off to Honolulu, I'd tell her to go fuck herself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's like I that's the part that always like really makes me laugh about the whole Walter character, is that like you have this guy who like projects all this energy of being outspoken and against the government, uh, telling the dude what exactly he needs to be doing during this heist, and all of these things. And yet, when it really matters, he cannot stand up to his ex wife.
Can't stand up to his ex-wife. Like even fucking going to this an extent where like dude like chastises,
Yeah.
dude, you're not even fucking Jewish. You're Irish Catholic, dude.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh, but he's like, I converted when I married her. It's like, yeah, but you fucking like, you're fucking divorced, dude.
I love his response. The
You
what's
just,
called
I just,
5,000 beautiful years of traditions of Moses region.
I just renounce it. I just renounce Judaism and just turn it in like my library card.
Yeah. If only it was that easy to just turn in your like card to your subscribed religion when you are like what's it called, a convert. It's not that
And you
easy.
know what, guys? I kind of say this is kind of fucked up and leave it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm done with Catholicism. I'm turning in my my what's it called card. I am converting fully to being officially atheist now. That's funny, but yeah, I mean it's just and it's true. Like Walter like has all these characteristics that would be just great if he went ahead and turned his concentration over to the other important parts of his life.
Yeah.
But of course, it's never that easy for things to go that way. But you know, these friends do have one thing that they all absolutely bond over, and it is their shared love of bowling. Which bowling is such a big aspect of this movie to the point where I learned that your foot is not supposed to cross that line when you're
Yeah.
playing with
No.
like the league. I believe it's like PBE now, like PBE rules and stuff.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. You know, it's an automatic foul. Like you, yeah, your frame's automatically invalid.
Yeah. And like I'm gonna be real honest. Like there is not a more perfect sport for the dude to love than bowling. It is probably one of the most chill sports. Well, at that time, yes. Except for now, I don't know if you remember seeing that video. That one guy on ESPN, what's it called 8, who what's it called rolled that
Mhm.
like perfect like game, and he was just like, "Let's go!" Like just yelling and stuff, and he's like, "Who the hell do you think you are? I am." And I'm like, okay,
I mean, to be completely honest, as somebody that dabbles in bowling myself, like I'm nowhere near like good and like maybe like decent. I'm nowhere near good. Bowling, as chill as it is, fucking difficult game. Like just watching it and just seeing the ease that some of these people are bowling, I was like,
hmm
I wish it was that fucking easy for me because like it's so much in the wrist control and just every little thing has to be like, oh my god, like if anything, this fucking movie after watching it for the first time is like, you know what, I can go bowling more. I want to fucking learn.
yeah. I mean, it's just that's like this like, but it's such like a very like, you know, it doesn't even seem like that the dude even cares about playing in the league, honestly. Like he just
No,
kind of
no,
wants
it's
to be there. He wants to drink his white Russians. He wants to bowl. He just wants to relax. Like he just loves this sport so much because it's like, you know, you look at all the other sports. We look at American football, football, yeah, basketball, hockey, like some very intense sports, intense sports. And then you have stuff like, of course, golf, which looks very intense as well. Let's be real honest, y'all. Like not like the frustration it must feel to constantly be in those sand dunes, man. Like it must
oh
be
yeah, the
like,
sandpits.
mm. So you look at like something like bowling and it's so chill. You have one ball, you go down the lane, you hit 10 pins. You get if you don't get what if you get them all in one time, you get a strike. You leave one and you get the other one next, you get a spare. You know, there's no like oh, ball what's it called went like this and then went like that and then went over here. It's called offside. It's like there's no rules like that. You know,
No,
you gotta make sure that your foot doesn't cross that line, right? You know, make sure your foot doesn't cross that line. But like, you know, there's no field goals. There's no what's it called
no,
3 pointers. There's no what's it called touchdown. Like there is no unnecessarily hard rules to the sport of bowling, and I think that's why the dude loves that sport
no.
so
You're either
much.
fucking good at it or you aren't.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you're either fucking good at it or you're not.
in which to an extent, the dude is pretty good. Not the best, but he's pretty damn good. Um,
Also, you're here talking about chill game. Fucking Walter pulled out a piece.
yeah, but Walter's Walter. I mean, like once again, we go back to the character of Walter, who's like, you know, geez, like, come on, man, it's a fucking game, bro. Like, chill. Like, I mean, and then of course you have Jesus over here, who like John Torturo, just wonderful, by the way, actor. I love. If you once again, this is me just once again recommending everybody to go watch Barton Fink. If you have not watched Barton Fink, holy crap, is he so good in Barton Fink? But just the character of Jesus and how like he takes this immensely serious, like
Remind. I just
very serious.
I just remembered even going tying back to the stuff that we were talking about earlier. Just fucking Jeff going, fucking dude going on towards Walter, just talking about like, you pulled a piece on Smokey, man. You know, you know that he has problems, man. He was a conscientious objector, he has, he's a pacifist. Yeah, I once
Yeah.
subscribed to pacifism once. It's like, no, dude, he has mental problems. I mean, besides pacifism.
Yeah, and that's such a big part of like the dude as well. It's like while he's getting almost like his ass kicked, he's refusing to fight back. He's not fighting back, and to
Yeah,
an extent, like I think that's a lot to do with like I've seen what violence does on the front lines in Vietnam, and I don't want to go back to being that person ever again. But like also just like you know everybody else seems to be like, dude, don't be a fucking pacifist. Like you're over here getting your ass kicked, but um, you have like all these other people who play this sport of bowling who are so like serious about it. Like Jesus to the point where he's like, I think he tells him like, what's it called? On Saturday, I'm gonna fuck you in the ass and I'm gonna fuck you in the ass hard. What's it called? When I beat you, and I'm like, holy fuck, bro, you're starting to sound like an Xbox Live lobby kid. You're like, holy shit, dude. Um, God, yeah. Did you ever
8-year-old
watch?
dude.
Did you ever watch the Jesus Rolls? The spin-off of this film?
No.
No.
Yeah,
I
no.
haven't brought myself to watch it, but I know that like, so Joe and Ethan are not involved in it. What of course they're not involved in it. They just gave John Turturro the go ahead to use the character. That's the only character that comes out in the film. But like this film really does give you like the impression of like I really want to see more of this Jesus guy, because I feel like it'd be the biggest fucking trip of my life to watch this guy, who by the way is a fucking petter first of all. Um, but like this
Better ass.
just
Better ass,
oh
Walter.
my god, this guy is just crazy. Like licks the ball and everything, has this guy who's like taking down every score that he's making to make sure that he gets counted for the right amount of pins. And it's like you really take this sport really seriously, man.
Fucking coming out to Hotel California in Spanish.
Oh, one of my favorite parts of this movie. Because at first I didn't notice that it was Hotel California. And then it gets into the course, and I'm like, is this fucking Hotel California in Spanish? Seriously? Oh man, but I love this. I love this. I love that part. It's so funny. And he's only in it for like 2 scenes, right?
Yeah, it's the initial scene when he comes, and then the scene. I'm trying to remember. I think it's after the exchange when
Mm-hmm.
Walter's all like messed up from his knee, and then Jesus is all pissed off. He's like, "What is this? What is this DRS shit?" So yeah, that's only his 2 scenes,
Yeah.
and
Well,
he's like one of the most memorable characters in the film.
yeah. I mean, that's just 100% due to the incredible writing from Joel and Ethan. I mean, just incredible writing and direction. Um, but yeah, it's just like the way that all of these characters take bowling so seriously is just like, holy crap, man. Like, slow down, y'all, please. Y'all gonna kill yourselves over bowling. And yeah,
It's like ladies in loteria with Mexicans.
don't mess with them. Don't mess with them. Don't mess with them. White folk and
Dude,
bowling.
they're fucking
Yeah,
vicious.
white folk and bowling, don't mess with them. And what's it called? Mexican moms in the loteria, don't mess with them either. They're fucking vicious. But we're gonna go ahead and
Dude, they're
take a
fucking
little.
intense. They're fucking intense. They bring out their own fucking card.
Yup, they'd be like managing like 10 cards, bro. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, y'all. Well, we're gonna go ahead and take a small little break here during the show, and we'll be back. And after we're back, we're going to continue on with our conversation on the Big Lebowski. But in the meantime, go ahead and listen to a little bit of this advertisement, and we'll be right back on the. We'll be right back as I discuss the Big Lebowski with Alex. We'll see you after. See you guys again after these words. I'm sorry about that, y'all. All right, whatever. We'll be back. I think both of those films are really interesting to watch kind of back to back in relation to each other. But of course, it's not really about what we talk about here. Like I said, I've watched all of these films more than once at this point, except for The Birds. But here we're here to talk about the transfer. So let's talk about that 4K transfer. Of course, it's presented on a 4K Blu-ray disc. I watched this on my 4K player, my Panasonic 4K player, on a Samsung 4K TV with HDR. I also watched this with the DTS-X audio track, not the DTS mono track. And of course, this probably right now, as of right now, between Rear Window and Vertigo, has to be my favorite transfer. This movie looks amazing in 4K. I mean, they really went in there and, like I said, stay true to the kind of muted palette that the color that the film stock gives it, but it also allows the colors to pop in a way. Shots like when they're at the San Francisco Bridge and the water's coming in, like, it looks incredible in 4K and truly looks captivating. Contrast, whites, black. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us during this small break. I hope you enjoyed that piece of advertisement. I still haven't decided exactly what the advertisement is because
I really loved it.
I still haven't really decided because I don't know what to put in there for now. But
I'm gonna buy it.
When this episode goes live, you'll know exactly what I put in there because I have made my mind up as to exactly what I'm going to put in there. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed. Now, speaking to you in the future, I hope you know exactly. I hope you enjoy whatever I put in there. Maybe it's a advertising on the last Cinema Condition episode, or maybe it was an advertisement of one of the videos on my podcast on my YouTube channel.
Go watch The Last Airbender.
Fuck no, no. Yeah, which
I
that
saw
also.
I saw y'all were miserable on that one.
Oh God, yeah. Which I mean, once again, you guys go ahead and just start, plug a little bit here in the middle section as we always do. I thank you all so much for being here. Of course, if you want to go ahead and support the network that makes all of this possible, because the show is still part of the network, it just lives on a different home. Go to nerdcore.com, y'all. Go and check out all that wonderful stuff on nerdcore.com. YouTube.com, the Nerdcore, and Twitch.tv/Nerdcore. Bunch of cool stuff that we do there. We just did a Last Airbender movie commentary, which was a chaos indeed, and it was just a terrible experience that I'm glad I will never have to relive again. But Worse than Solo, yeah, worse than Solo. I though I'm like, I mean, I did make Alex watch Salo with me because it was one of our like goals for our fundraising. After having watched it, now I think if somebody will choose Salo, I would like to have a really detailed conversation about that film, especially because I think there's a lot to be said. But I know that Alex will try to. I think Alex is very much indeed going to forget everything from his head that has to do with Pierre Pasolini's Salo, the 120 Days of Sodom.
Yeah, my letterbox review still reads, if I'm correct, that it was a contractual obligation.
Yeah, contractual obligation. Which there was never a written contract; it was a verbal contract, I guess. But yeah,
don't do those, kids.
Yeah. But yeah, man. That's that, and going to support the network makes everything possible. If you want to go lend the network a dollar for your patronage, go to patreon.com/nerdcore. But
I got a quarter. Does that count?
No, the salary does not count. Get 4 more of those, and then you can get access to an array of items in their vault. But,
Fuck! I only got 3.
Yeah. So, of course, that's 75 cents at least, man. But let's get back into our conversation on Joel and Ethan Coen's The Big Lebowski. As you can tell if you're watching this on YouTube, Alex is actually holding up the steelbook for it, which is beautiful. And of course, this is on the on my YouTube channel, which is a YouTube channel that really focuses on physical media. So I'm glad that they're holding that up. Stays on brand to our new home here on the podcast, Alex. This film is what's it called? Apparently, is on 4K. I did not know that, and
I didn't know that either. It was news to me.
Yeah. I'll just say I watched a Blu-ray copy of this. I borrowed a Blu-ray from my friend. This looks beautiful. I mean, they did some extensive work, I think, on the transfer, so it looks fantastic on Blu-ray. So that just makes me even more excited to wonder what that 4K transfer looks like. So staying on brand, right, with our physical media talk here on the YouTube channel. But yeah, And if anybody wants to know, the Coen Brothers are definitely inside the Criterion Collection. If you ever want to catch some of their films on the Criterion Collection, this that is definitely one of the directors that are very present in that physical media space.
I'm trying to think. It's so again we were talking about it off the recording, but it was Blood Simple, Lewin Davis, and then just Miller's Crossing just got recently added.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
let me hop on the interwebs while we continue and see what else is on the Criterion for the Coens.
yeah. I mean, a lot of people have been like speculating they wanted a Ballad of Buster Scruggs, especially because it's like a Netflix release. But like,
I can only cross my fingers.
yeah, I don't know. At that point, I'm not sure where what's it called that if that will ever happen. That feels like wishful thinking, especially because like at this point, like Buster Scruggs has been out for so long already. Like if they would have done it, it would have been done a while ago. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. So one thing I do want to kind of discuss a little bit at hand here, I do want to talk a lot about the conversation on social economic status here in this film, because we're kind of forgetting about a really important figure in this film. We kind of are not talking to an extent about Maud, who is the daughter of Jeffrey and Bunny, who is the wife that the
Well,
yeah
Maud is her stepdaughter.
stepdaughter. I'm sorry, yeah, stepdaughter. She's like a artist, and she does like very like erotic performances, right? And it's like
Yeah,
she's very different from Jeffrey.
as she says, critics have referred to her art as vaginal.
Vaginal, yes, to the point where she's like men are very uncomfortable with the word vagina and
Vagina.
vaginal, and I'm just like, I mean, men back then maybe because I'm like I'm not squirming like watch you
Vagina.
vagina and
Who refer to their penis as their Johnson.
Johnson, which apparently that is something that the dude has never heard about.
Johnson?
Johnson is like, dude, you served in the 70s and like they were using Johnson back then. What the
Johnson?
fuck? But yes, your participle, your the what's it called the thing that hangs off of the middle area of your lower half. Uh,
Lower half.
yeah. But yeah, Maud is a very interesting character. But also she kind of, the characters of Maud, of Jeffrey, of Bunny, of the dude, Walter, they all kind of really do, interestingly enough, symbolize this divide in social classes. Especially, of course, our biggest example is Jeffrey, who's a millionaire, who is at the highest of the highs at the time, because we lived in the time back then where there was no billionaires. Um, there was no billionaires. There was just multimillionaires and millionaires, and that was the highest. And then you have people like Maud who are doing very well off. They're not considered to be on the playing field that Jeffrey is. He's not. She's not ultra successful and doesn't have a lot of money, but she's still very much fixated on the lifestyle of a Jeffrey.
See, that's the other part. It's that to them it's all just a lifestyle because through Maud, especially when dude helps her conceive, you
Mm,
find out that that kind of vibrato, that kind of like persona that Jeffrey puts on is just that. It's a persona because that's when she reveals that all of the money that he gave was not his money. It was money that he took from the account of the little urban achievers because he has no money.
yeah.
The money all belonged to her birth mother, so
Mm-hmm.
his ex-wife. So it's all kind of just it's that they kind of put it to where like he really wants to keep that facade that he's this rich made man. Like, I look at all the stuff that I did. I left Korea. I lost my legs, but I gained this wealthy life with a wealth that's not even his. The
Exactly.
only the only made man in the whole movie is Jackie Treehorn.
Yes, Jackie Treehorn. Um, and it's just like it's just this very like ugly side of like how people are very unhappy, uh, to the point where they need to create this facade so that way they can show that everybody like I am successful. This matters so much to me. This matters so much to you. But like in reality, you have people like the dude who are like, yeah, I'm poor. I don't care.
And it
Like,
even goes as far as to like after the whole Jackie Treehorn thing, like after he, gets drugged by Jackie Treehorn, we see the whole sequence with the first edition. Um,
mm-hmm,
After the whole thing, we see the chief of police there for, I want to say it was Malibu that he was
mm-hmm.
at, and he very much kind of treats him like, dude, you're this poor dude, and this is Malibu, like we have important people, fucking wealthy people here, and you're disturbing the peace. We can't have you here. We don't like your kind.
Yeah, yeah. And that's like that's so very common, especially for the people growing up at that time who were starting to come up in the age of the Bill Gates of the world.
Yeah,
Who, like, at that time, Microsoft was starting to really boom. Bill Gates was about to really step foot into his empire, where he would end up becoming the richest man in the world at one point. And of course, on the other side of the spectrum, you have very much like Steve Jobs with Macintosh, and like you have but like it's just shows that even the people who know that Jeffrey is a con and is like a hack still somehow looks down on people like the dude, because Maud even tells her like, I want a man like you who I don't need to be out socially with to conceive. And it's like, because you're poor. That's literally why, because you're a poor dude who, like, I don't need to be out with you, because nobody would ever believe that you are the father of my child.
yeah,
Because in no world would a low bum like you, a slacker, basically a hippie, let's be real,
yeah.
would never impregnate a woman of high class like Maud.
Yeah, no, and then even going as far as to kind of again with the still that status, the especially going back to Buddy, getting all the money from Jeffrey. Then she finds that it's not enough, so that's when she starts borrowing from Jackie Treehorn, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where everything ensues. And she's just kind of running around, flaunting around, just being this fucking wild woman. And then that's when you realize, towards the end of the film, that's when a private detective has been tailing the dude the entire movie, and you find out that she came from this small farm, uh, fucking little upbringing
Yeah,
where she was the local cheerleader, and they're like that she escaped that life, and her parents, what is she doing? But she escaped that life because she wanted to escape that, that very, I guess, middle class kind of
middle
living,
America.
middle America kind of living, and live this life of on the fast lane. Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just so interesting because you look at like the other films of Joe and Ethan Coen, where like, you know, Fargo, where Fargo really embraces middle America.
Yeah,
Yeah. And like, where like this idea of like, oh, this like hick northwest, what's called Midwest lifestyle is so, ugly in these films like the Big Lebowski, where people think it's like this like so ugly and it's like so
low
bottom of the
class.
barrel. But like in films like Fargo, it's like, oh, it's just a community that like
Yeah,
looks out for each other, and like they're not living lavishly, but they're very happy.
but I think it's to just kind of juxtapose everything that just the dude's about, because the dude doesn't care about money.
No.
He's there fucking writing a fucking check for 97 cents to get fucking carton of milk.
Yep.
To him it's nothing. Like he's basically the antithesis to all these characters around him. Everybody's caring about their image,
Hmm.
clinging on to that past life, like Walter apparently had, with his ex-wife and everything. The only person that probably the dude could probably relate to is probably the most oblivious one to everything, and that's Donnie. We haven't talked about Donnie the whole
Poor
time.
Donnie. Poor Donnie. Um, and
Steve
yeah, and like
Buscemi's
that's the
Donnie is
one
like the
guy who, isn't really present a lot in this film, but his presence is felt through the dude because he loves the dude, and like the dude loves Donnie a lot, to where like he feels so strongly that Walter brings up Vietnam when he's like going to spread Donnie's ashes, and it's like you're such a disrespectful piece of shit. Like you're
Yeah, because
stalking
it's
out of your fucking ass.
yeah, because it's like to him, it's like, dude, this is our friend. He literally just died, and here you are interjecting your ideas and yourself essentially into a eulogy that's to our fallen friend.
Hmm.
And that's why I kind of like sympathize with Donnie the whole film because well, everything's going on. Donnie's just like, hey, what's up, guys?
Donnie just wants the bowl.
Donnie just wants the bowl. He wants to chill out.
Yeah, it's like that's the part of the dude that never once would have never gotten involved here, and it's like that's what the dude looks like if he just didn't wasn't last his last name wasn't Lebowski.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if that whole little mix up that, and it's literally just that one little mix up that happens that just derails the dude's fucking life.
yeah, yeah. And I also love the whole aspect here where they're like, oh, the German nihilists and all these different parties that are getting involved, and like somehow like everybody has like a really what's it called a big problem with the German nihilists, and it's like, I mean, to an extent, they follow an ideology that's kind of the same but a little bit more extreme than the dudes.
We
Life,
don't care about nothing, Lebowski.
yeah, it's like these nihilists just believe that life just isn't worth it, and we're constantly just existing, and we are just here until the day that we die, and therefore, they're gonna do this work because life doesn't truly matter. And it's like, yeah, I mean that's to an extent that's kind of like what the dude follows, except to a less
A more
extreme way.
extreme, yeah,
Yeah,
drastic, more extremist way.
yeah, yeah, and somehow Walter has a big problem with that. When like if you would just pay attention and look at your friend, you would realize that the dude feels this way about life as well. Like he doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about work. He all he wants to do is he wants to smoke his drugs, drink white Russians, have sex, play bowling and bowl. That's all he wants. That's all he wants. And yet everybody is against him here because you're a poor man who is supposed to be working, who is supposed to be providing for himself and making a better name out of you. You're supposed to cling on to this old idea of the American dream.
And as George Carlin once said, they call it the American dream because you have to be asleep
You
to
have to be
believe it.
asleep to believe it. Exactly. Yeah. Because once again, what's it called? Well, what's the point? You are always being what's it called robbed of the money you make from somebody who's higher than you, and in the system of capitalism, you never ever win. You ever win? It's never you will never prosper because even then, someone like Jerry still answers to somebody higher than him.
What the
Even
hell?
Jeffrey, I'm sorry, not Jerry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jerry,
Speaking
if
of
you're
Jerry,
listening.
speaking of my buddy Jerry, we just had a conversation about the IRS. What the fuck did I just say? Hold
Yeah,
up, let me pull it up real quick because I said something just stupid.
yeah. Um,
Uh,
well, we're almost at the end of this conversation here, and what's it called? I do want to talk a little bit about Joel and Ethan's style and how like you know if you guys don't know, Joel loves editing, right? I said in that beginning, like just this is probably one of those examples that I would like to throw out of like movies that are perfectly edited, which like carries its pace so well throughout the film because it's just edited beautifully. But there's one thing I do want to talk about when it comes to the style of Joel and Ethan Coen. I want to talk about that musical number because it's so out of left field. You don't see it coming unless you are a lover of Joel and Ethan Coen's filmography, and when this happens, oh, this is right out of their repertoire. This is like right out of their sleeve. This is those cards that they always have up their sleeves that they always find a way to play out. And knowing that their inspirations were like people like Federico Fellini who just love the circus and love the what's it called the very wacky and whimsical. When I see that, I'm like, oh man, you can tell the Coens loved Italian cinema. Like this screams Italian cinema
oh yeah,
to the core, bro. But what did you think about that musical number, man? That musical number is kind of crazy, isn't it?
it's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Just because it further instills just, if anything, it just instills how much of a trip the Big Lebowski is. Because like I keep mentioning, it takes something that's just a minimal premise, just something that's an inconvenience in some dude's life, and just turns into an entire tree. That's Phil. I mean, just think about it. There's a rich dude, some nihilists, a pornographer with loan sharks. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You got a buddy that's stuck in Vietnam. You got a fucking Mexican pederast that's fucking gyrating his hips around the lanes. It's just like it sounds like a fever dream. So when you think about it and you sit down and watch the film and you really process like this movie's fucked up, and you watch it, you're just like, oh, this is the most normal thing that I've seen the entire movie.
um, it truly is like crazy, and like I also just like if you guys don't know, this movie is based in LA, and I love that Joe and Ethan Coen throughout all of their films also have this way of like incorporating wherever their films are set. Like I said, Fargo, they have an impeccable way of like incorporating the atmosphere of Middle America, and here they just incorporate Los Angeles so well and just really portray the chaos of that city and like how it's even said in the beginning like this is the city of angels, but it's nowhere near being that at all. It's like it's not a city of angels.
No.
Yeah. And I just that's just that part is just the music number is just so crazy, and I love that like the dude is just like turning around like, oh, looking up the skirt of Julianne Moore, and it's just like, oh god, which also just I remember I saw Julianne Moore in this, and I was like, oh crap, I remember you from Boogie Nights. But
This
yeah,
is on my that's on my watch list. I need to watch Boogie Nights.
so good, bro, so good. But
I have
yeah,
an I have a watch list.
yeah, I'd say that we had a pretty good conversation, right, Alex?
Oh, it was a wonderful conversation. Like I said, if anything, people, I'm probably going abridged with this conversation. I could talk about this movie and quote it for hours. I could probably do my own fucking reenactment of this whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Um, that you can, man. That you can. And I'm looking so forward to like getting to watch this again whenever the time comes because I do have access to it now. So I very much enjoyed our conversation here, and I can't wait for you to come back for your next episode, which I believe you are discussing Watchmen.
Oof, yes, I
Yeah.
am.
So I know that you know that usually you're supposed to pick a movie at the end. Do you want to save that for Watchmen, or do you already have a film in mind that you do want to pick for season three?
Hmm. Do I have a film that I want to pick for season three?
Yeah, season three of the cinema condition that you want to come back, that you want to claim right now. Of course, you could always save it for when we get to Watchmen, but as you can tell, as everybody can tell, movies it's what's it called? It's the wild wild west out here, y'all. Like,
If nobody's claimed it yet, hold up. I'm gonna get off camera. I'm gonna get something real quick. The original 1947 Nightmare Alley.
oh wow, nice. Okay. So you're going to be claiming 1947's Nightmare Alley. Nice. That is going to make an interesting conversation because I've never seen 1947, but I loved Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. But yeah, woo, yes sir, yes sir. Beautiful steelbook as well, right?
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful steelbook.
Yeah. So you heard it here first, folks. Alex will be returning for season three to discuss 1947's Nightmare Alley. He always gets multiple picks. He always gets two picks in the season. So if he wants to get the 2021 Nightmare Alley, he can too. But I think that would be just a similar conversation. We could already discuss at length, like the remake. But um, yeah, how
We'll
did
see.
how is the book? By the way, have you read the book?
I started the book. I'm gonna have to read through the book. So in preparation, I'm probably going to just redigest everything because I have, I can already see it. I have my copy of the book too. So I have the book, I have the 1947, and I
Yeah.
have 2021.
Yeah. I mean, staying on brand to physical media on here, y'all. He pulls out the Criterion copy. He pulls out his what's it called, like his steel book, Best Buy
Book
exclusive steel
copy.
book. Yeah, yeah. It's fantastic out here. Yeah, yeah. But thank you for always
Physical media, guys.
uh,
Physical media.
yeah. Thank you for understanding the assignment, as they say, Alex. But Alex will be returning for season 3 of the Cinema Condition with the 1947 edition of Nightmare Alley, and he has another episode left in the the current season of the Cinema Condition when he'll talk about Watchmen. We're going to be doing the ultimate cut, right? Or
Yeah,
have we not
ultimate cut.
decided? Oh, we decided the ultimate cut.
No. We're doing ultimate cut.
Holy shit! I'm gonna
Four
have to
hours,
buy
man.
that
Almost
on.
4 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy that on 4K for sure. Holy crap! But of course, Alex, you want to let them know where they can find you out there on the internet and stuff like that?
You can find me on Twitter at AlexDoesComics and follow my letterboxd at WeebLordAlex.
That's right. Yeah, you always want to keep up to date with Alex on Letterboxd. He has this thing where like he'll like beautifully write something, and then there's sometimes where he just like
Fucking shit post.
shit post. But yeah, go follow Alex, y'all. Go show him some love. As always, I can be found at Twitter and Instagram at the Nerd Chicano. On here on this YouTube channel, make sure that you leave a like and you subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single piece of content regarding to this podcast or physical media in general. So just imagine there's a little click and you press the click thing. Subscribe to this channel, y'all, please. Of course, also I want to thank you all so much for sticking with us. If you want to go over to our audio version of this, where if you're listening to this on the audio version, make sure you give us a 5-star review on your Cinema Condition podcast feed. Make sure you give that on Apple Podcasts and rate that. It would be it would be lovely. And I still haven't decided when this is gonna go up, so I'm gonna leave.
If you're listening to it, it's up.
If it's up, yeah, no, because I have something coming up, so I kind of wanted to plug that, but I'll go ahead and save that for the next episode. So I'll just shut up about that in general. Also go to thenerdcore.com, y'all, if you want to go read some of my reviews that I put up there. I think my recent one was X. No, Deep Water. Deep Water was my recent review. I'm finishing up my review on Men now. I just watched Alex Garland's Men, so I want to talk about that to an extent as well.
That
that movie, man.
was it good?
We'll talk off air.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and of course, what's it called? We are going to be discussing Alex Garland soon on this podcast. So stay tuned, y'all. And without further ado, I really appreciate you all so much. Keep on showing some love here. I have never really understood an outro for this podcast, but I guess I'll stick to the outro that I give to the channel in general. So, to my renowned cinephiles and scholars, celebrate the love of cinema today, tomorrow, and every day after. We'll catch you all in the next one.